Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we will, yet again, be visiting the world of Loist Interactive's INFRA, specifically the many secrets that you can find throughout the vast city of Stalberg. This was a video I could have made a while ago, but what stopped me was the thought that no matter how much searching I did, I would never be able to find all the secrets that this game had to offer, as every time I replay it, I consistently find at least a few more hidden things that I had no knowledge of beforehand. So naturally, this video won't cover every Easter egg and secret in the game. I'll also not be covering secrets that have to do with the game's plot, as I don't think they really classify as Easter eggs. I also won't be talking much about Morco for this reason, although I do have a video covering all the times Morco does make an appearance in the game. But to start off with, let's take a look at a couple out-of-bounds secrets. Firstly, in Chapter 7 of the game, shortly before you enter the SNW bunker, there is a small complex of hallways. This place does hold a secret hideout, but adjacent to this is a broken catwalk that prevents the player in normal gameplay from reaching the hallway on the other side. Although if you use no clip to reach the other side, you can find some interesting graffiti. Another out-of-bounds Easter egg can be found in Chapter 2. If you use no-clip to view the top of the train, you can see some handwritten text reading, "I like trains." I can only assume that this was written by one of the devs to express their everlasting love. An Easter egg that doesn't require no-clip can be found in Chapter 9, outside Mikhail Rosenthal's villa. If you wait long enough, you can see something floating down the flooded river. Moving on to assets, several small flags can be found in the game, all variations of a single small prop with multiple rearrangeable skins. Skin 0 is the Finnish flag, an obvious reference to the home country of Infra's developers, Loist Interactive. Skin 1 is the flag of the United States, which may be a reference to the 2009 documentary that initially inspired Infra, Crumbling of America. Skin 7 is a fictional flag with a black pennant on a white background. This flag has been slated to represent the country that the player will be able to control in Loist Interactive's upcoming game, Volta. This suggests that the fictional country exists in 2016 and will survive for well into the 23rd century, where the events of Volta are said to take place. As of now though, next to nothing is known about this country. Skin 9 is this flag, which is the flag of the Livonian people, an ethnic group originally from the Baltic region, with their own language, Livonian, part of the Uralic language group. The language is now critically endangered due to the extremely low number of people who can speak it. Efforts to preserve Livonian culture and the language are in effect in Latvia, specifically an area of northwestern Latvia known as the Livonian Coast. The existence of this flag in Infra may suggest that in the universe Infra is set in, the nation of Stolland may have a thriving Livonian population that maybe even had something to do with the country's existence. One of the places where a Livonian flag can be found is in the apartment of Kevin J. Hertz in Turnip Hill in Chapter 9, which could suggest that he, along with his daughter Elo Bloomer, and perhaps even his father Andrew Hertz, may be Livonian. All of this, of course, is just hypothetical. The flag can be found in other apartments in Turnip Hill, so it could just be a stock asset. Moving on from flags, let's take a look at achievements. Infra has 74 of them, with most tracking progression, photographs, repairs, and other collectibles. But there are some for finding hidden secrets or doing very specific actions. The first achievement that can be unlocked in the game is called A Bad Case of the Mondays, and can be unlocked in Chapter 1, minutes after you first leave the meeting at the beginning of the game. All you have to do is jump from the 7th or 8th floor in the Alcista building, leading to a sudden death. It is worth noting that the day that INFRA takes place on, the 8th of August 2016, is indeed a Monday. Another achievement, with the name Enjoy Ice Cold Osmo Olud, can be unlocked in Chapter 3, shortly after exiting either the Pinefell water treatment plant or the B2 corridor. The player must walk across a pipe over the tunnel water to find a near 20-year-old bottle of Osmo Olud, with a note left by Eric to Robin, two former employees of the Bergman tunnels. Drinking the bottle will lead to this. Kebab Special is an achievement that can be unlocked in the laboratory of the Bidith water treatment plant in Chapter 5. All the player needs to do is eat a kebab located in a box in the corner of the room.
Ooh.
This achievement's name was not always Kebab Special. Before an update on the 13th of April 2023, the achievement's name was Remove Kebab. This was in reference to the colloquial name of a Serbian propaganda song produced during the Yugoslav Wars in the 1990s. The song is highly controversial, so I won't talk too much about it. But given the ethnic tensions during the Yugoslav Wars that still linger on in the region to this day, it makes sense that this name would be changed. For a similarly dark achievement, Demon Core Experiment can be unlocked in the laboratory of the SNW bunker in Chapter 7.
Fascinating.
This references a real-world event which occurred in 1946 in Los Alamos, New Mexico, in which a physicist named Louis Slotin was experimenting with a small sphere of plutonium-239, a fissile isotope commonly used as the core component of a nuclear bomb. The experiment involved surrounding the plutonium with beryllium, which would reflect neutrons emitted from the plutonium back into the core, causing more neutrons to be emitted. But if entirely encased in beryllium, a chain reaction would be triggered, causing the core to go critical. Slotin would prevent this from happening by using a screwdriver to stop the beryllium container from falling completely on the plutonium core. But while performing this experiment on the 21st of May 1946, the screwdriver slipped, causing the core to become entirely encased, prompting a critical reaction. Slotin would correct his mistake in a matter of seconds, but the damage was done. For the last days of his life, Slotin would suffer from a variety of excruciating medical problems caused by the radiation poisoning. He would die whilst in a coma on the 30th of May 1946, at age only 35, just 9 days after the accident. The plutonium core used, and others of the same design, would later become known as demon cores. In INFRA, it is evident that the scientists of the SNW bunker, intent on developing nuclear weapons, are replicating Slotin's experiments. The mad scientist Richard also seems intent on replicating Slotin's exact methodology, much to the dismay of the other scientists. Mark does die a lot sooner than Slotin did, only a few seconds rather than days. This perhaps suggests that the radioactive material is a lot stronger than plutonium, or maybe it's just because he left the core enclosed longer. But either way, it's most likely just for gameplay purposes. It wouldn't be fun for the player to have to cope with radiation-based illnesses only for Mark to collapse 3 or 4 chapters later. For some more cheery achievements, there is an achievement in the Piddick Water Treatment Plant in Chapter 5 that necessitates the player buying a soft drink from the drink dispenser, and then taking that drink to the control room with a strict no food and drink sign beside it.
Where is everybody?
Doing this will give the player the achievement Anarchist. The achievement Foreseen Consequences can be unlocked in the Hammer Valley Dam in Chapter 2 if the player throws any sufficiently heavy physics object at the large crack in the dam.
The dam's in even worse condition than I thought. Shit!
The name of this achievement is also a reference to the Half-Life game series, a play on the term Unforeseen Consequences, the name of the third chapter of the first Half-Life game, along with the phrase, "Prepare for unforeseen consequences," which is said many times in the series in some very important moments.
Now, listen carefully, my dear. When you see your father, relay these words. Prepare for unforeseen consequences.
This isn't the only reference to Half-Life in the game. INFRA was made on the Source game engine, which was created by Valve, who also made the Half-Life and Portal game series. INFRA first started development as a mod for Half-Life, before becoming its own game, being programmed on the same version of Source that Portal 2 uses. This heritage shines through in Chapter 1, where there are a couple references to Half-Life and Portal. In Mark's office, the whiteboard he has is created by the company Aperture Boards, with Aperture Science being the corporation that is the focus of the Portal games. Also in Mark's office, along with various other places in the game, there is a prop which is literally just an orange box. This is a reference to the Orange Box, a collection of video games released as a package by Valve in 2007, including the games Half-Life 2 in its episodes, Portal, and Team Fortress 2. There is also a plaque indicating that one of the offices in the Our Sister building is in use by a PhD Freeman, referencing the protagonist of most of the mainline Half-Life games, Dr. Gordon Freeman. Now, I'm not really sure that this is a real reference, but I do have suspicions that some characters in INFRA have names that are purposefully similar to those in the Half-Life and Portal games, such as Alex Hartman and Alex Vance, Jeff Walter and Walter Bennett, Eric Kleinman and Isaac Kleiner, Mikhail Rosenthal and Dr. Rosenberg, Steve Johnson and Cave Johnson, or Arne Magnusson and Hans Magnusson. But I do concede that some of these names, most of these names, or probably even all of these, are just coincidental. But I did think it was worth mentioning since it's something that's been on my mind for a good few years now. Another thing which I think could be a reference is in the SNW bunker in Chapter 7, where the code to the dormitories is 2077.
The scientist team lives in the accommodation wing next to the laboratory. The door code is 2077.
Which I think might be a reference to the Fallout game series, which depicts a nuclear war known as the Great War occurring on the 23rd of October, 2077.
Almost there. We're gonna be okay. I love you. Both of you.
We love you too. Oh my god!
Hold on!
Given SNW's involvement in the development of nuclear weapons, this may be a subtle reference to the disastrous consequences of what may occur given their continued actions. On to more confirmed references, but sticking to the theme of door codes. In the Bergman tunnels in Chapter 3, a door code is 0451. This is a reference to the 1953 novel Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, which depicts a dystopian future where books have been declared illegal, with any books being found burnt. It isn't uncommon for games to reference this book. In fact, it's more of a trend which originally started with the game Systems Shock in 1994, but in that case, the number 0451 was actually in reference to the door code of the officers to the studio that developed the game, Looking Glass Studios. For another reference, at the bottom of the Hammer Valley Dam in Chapter 2, a mural can be found commemorating Heisenberg. Along with being the name of a German physicist, this is in reference to the TV show Breaking Bad, specifically the protagonist, Walter White, who adopts the alias Heisenberg while producing methamphetamine in Albuquerque, New Mexico. In the show, we see that some of Heisenberg's signature blue meth makes it all the way to Czechia. Is it too far of a stretch to assume that some of this meth also made its way to Stalin, which I can only assume would be the drug capital of Scandinavia? There's also a poster in the game for a lawyer named Samuel Godman. I think the reference here is clear.
Better call Saul!
Another reference to Breaking Bad is a book found in the game simply titled Chemistry, written by Walter K. Black, analogous to the show's Walter H. White. There is also another book in the game, the Alan Bacon Cookbook. According to the Stahlberg Wiki, this is a reference to the video game Alan Wake, but I've never played that game, so I'm not entirely sure how this is a reference beyond the first name Alan. But the file name of the asset is book_AW. In the Pitteath Water Treatment Plant in Chapter 5, and at the top of the Stahlberg Steel Factory in Chapter 4, you can see a sign for the Summer Car Center, this being a reference to the video game My Summer Car, a sandbox type game set in Finland. The fanbase of INFRA and that of My Summer Car has a lot of overlap. There's even an INFRA themed custom texture pack for My Summer Car. There is a reference to a real-world company in INFRA. In Chapter 1, we can see the officers of a company called SimChick Planning and Development, which in the real world is a property consultant company based in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which financially supported INFRA's development on Indiegogo, for which having your brand appear in-game was a reward. Returning to Turnip Hill in Chapter 9, there are a few interesting nameplates on some of the doors. The first is Balog, which may reference Thomas Balog, an employee of Stahlberg Water who worked at the Stahlberg Central Water Plant. Next is Bellic, which I thought could be a reference to Niko Bellic, the Serbian protagonist of Grand Theft Auto 4, but I suppose this could be unrelated or reference something else. The name Black indicates that this apartment is owned by the aforementioned Walter K. Black, who wrote the book Chemistry. There's also Rasputin. The first name that comes to mind is that of Grigory Rasputin, the infamous holy man of Tsarist Russia, followed by Jesus, Son of God. The rest of these names are characters implicitly stated to live in Turnip Hill, or names that I could not find anything substantial for. It's not just names though. Turnip Hill is full of little Easter eggs and small details. To name a couple, in an apartment where a birthday party has recently concluded, you can find a drink of some unknown substance.
Someone should get that fixed.
Although we don't know what it is, I'd guess that green mushrooms are a main ingredient. Also, in this apartment, you can find a small toy resembling Bomb from Angry Birds. In another part of Turnip Hill, you can find an unmarked door with nothing on the other side besides a brick wall with a note saying, "Bricks welcome." You can hear a unique line of dialogue from Mark if you manage to find a brick from anywhere in the level and place it in this slot.
This was the single most useful thing I've done today.
There's no achievement for this. It's completely out of your way and it never gets acknowledged again. I know at the start of the video I said I'd stay away from the more lore-related secrets, but please forgive this small tangent. In the bunker in Chapter 7, in Richard's room, sprawled with murals of Morko the mad scientist had painted, we can find a hidden computer terminal behind the wall. This terminal holds many secrets. First of all, if we take the first letter of each word, it spells out multiple messages, the first of which being, Uka is God. This might not seem like much, but Uka is the name of an ancient Mesopotamian deity, known to be the god of the underground. Also part of the Mesopotamian religion is Galu, demons working for Uka that carry people down to the underworld. According to this mythology, there were 7 Galas. This all may tie into the existing storyline of INFRA. According to a document found in Chapter 3 of the game, the machine was built by 7 masked men, which may be analogous to the 7 Galas. If this is the case, then it would leave the question of who is analogous to Uka. Some theories state that it may be Andrew Hertz, the lead creator of the machine, along with the 7 masked men. The then supposed title of God of the Underground would make sense, given that the machine he built is theorized to be in the underground city. Also, given that the machine is an execution device, as discovered by Mark in the secret 4th ending of INFRA, the term God of the Underground might also mean God of Hell in this case. Returning to the 7 masked men, one of the more popular theories is that the enigmatic Morko is one of these men. If this were the case, then it would insinuate that there are 7 Morkos across Stalberg. Well, if we count all the times that either Morko or Morko's mask has appeared in-game, excluding those found out of bounds and thus only able to be seen via no-clip, we find that there are exactly 7 sightings. In the B2 corridor, in the storm drain, in the mines, under the decking in Hammer Valley, washed up on the shore in the Bergman tunnels, at the end of a tunnel in the cistern, and finally in the wasteland. Assuming that Morko, 7 in number, are representing the Galas, carrying people into the underworld, then a drawing made by Elo Bloomer seems to depict just that, with Morko leading her to the entrance to the underground city. Perhaps all the missing homeless people in the city of Stalberg are captured by one of the 7 Morkos, or just the 3 Morkos that seem to still be left, and are brought to the underworld and killed. But all this is just a theory. Andrew Hertz is not the only suspect for the title of Uka, God of the Underground. It could also be the statue known as Ugu, found in the water tunnels of Chapter 7. The numbers and letters underneath the words on the computer terminal can be decoded several different ways, one of which calls Ugu the Underground World God. But that's all I'm going to say about the ARG in this video. This part of INFRA's plot goes a lot deeper, and there are so many secret codes that are yet to be fully decoded. This was just the surface of a much larger conspiracy, that I might never be able to do fully justice. So, I'll move on to something more mundane: license plates. In Europe, every country has a slightly different system of registering vehicles. For EU countries, license plates look fairly similar, with the 12 gold stars and an abbreviation of the country's name, sometimes down to just one letter. Outside the EU, however, license plates often have the country's flag on them. Following this, it seems like Stolland is not in the EU. The license plates in the game seem closest in design to the plates seen in former Yugoslav countries such as Serbia, Croatia, and Montenegro, which all include a 2-letter regional indicator. As far as we can see, this means there are at least 7 regions to Stolland, one of which canonically being known as the Stalberg region, which is also sometimes called the Capital region. Now, this next section will be a slight correction to my previous video, but apparently these license plates were not made by anyone on the Lois team, but were instead outsourced, hence why the country abbreviation TSL doesn't make too much sense, given that the country's name is Stolland. When being made, the creator had the name Terestalia in mind, but of course, since this individual wasn't part of the team, the devs don't consider this name canon. One thing I did assume was that the country code top-level domain name .ts was also in reference to Terestalia, but this is not the case. The devs wanted the top-level domain name to be .st for Stalberg, but that was already taken by Sao Tome and Principe. Regardless, it still is strange for a city to have its own TLD. More importantly though, on the 17th of November 2023, Loist Interactive's other game, Urban Sewer, formerly Open Sewer, had a massive overhaul, completely changing the map and many of the mechanics. The main storyline still isn't complete, and I'm still yet to find everything in the current version of the game, so I'm going to hold off on doing a video entirely dedicated to it just yet. But one of the items seen in the game is a decorative clock in the shape of Stolland's borders, confirming this as the canon shape. Although the exclusion of Erland may be due to how a decorative clock with disconnected islands wouldn't really work, so there's still no way of knowing if Erland is Stollandian or Swedish. Additionally, the term Stolland, or rather Stollandian, is also canon, and it's one of the items you can find in the game is a bottle of Stollandian vodka. It's nice that this is all now confirmed, for world-building purposes that is. Finally, I'd like to talk about an Easter egg in the fan mod INFRA Underground, which released in 2022. When going through the transition from Chapter 2 to Chapter 3, there is a chance that Mark will be no-clipped out of reality. And falls into the back rooms. This secret area necessitates finding a number of fuses across the complex in order to escape, but be wary of the shifting geometry, and of course, I absolutely love this Easter egg. It wasn't originally in the mod, instead being added in the version 1.01 update 2 weeks after the initial release. When players first got their hands on INFRA Underground, many players, including myself, fell out of bounds during the transition into Chapter 3. An unfortunate glitch to have, but instead of just removing it, the devs made it into a fully involved mini-chapter of the game, with genuine horror, impressive technicality in how the geometry shifts, all in reference to an internet creepypasta that I really like. I also appreciate how it isn't completely identical to how level 0 of the backrooms is usually depicted, but has its own visual style more consistent with INFRA. Additionally, completing this section will reward the player with the upgraded flashlight seen in the last 2 chapters of INFRA, which was initially missing from Underground, giving the player added incentive to play through this optional part of the game. To conclude, this Easter egg is one of the greatest I've seen in any game. Thank you for watching, and bye.